Okay, we should be live. Can anybody see me? Can anybody hear me? Is live chat working? There we go. It is working. Okay. I think we're at a funny time for people, so people may be catching up on this later.
Yes, poor Noah. I was speaking to him this afternoon. He was like, "Oh, I wish I could watch you and Joey today." And I'm like, "Please don't do it. Please don't do it to yourself." It's like 3 a.m. where he is, and I'm like, "Do not. I forbid you to stay up that late to watch me and Joey today."
Yeah, it's very late for the Americans, so we might be quiet because we've picked kind of like in the morning for the UK and kind of late-ish. It's kind of late-ish for you, isn't it?
Early evening, 6 o'clock. So it is dinner time. It's dinner time. But hopefully we'll have some Aussies and some Brits behind us.
I'm hoping people can see because Chris has just said that she can't see it.
Oh.
This is a very weird introduction if it is working. So apologies for anybody who can see us, but I just want to make sure all the technology's working because I don't want to miss questions if people have got questions and things.
See, this is the thing.
Well, it says 4 watching, so I think we're okay. Okay, I'm just going to introduce. I'm just going to ask Chris.
I'm just clicked on the. Okay. I can see me.
Okay. Okay, good.
I can chat.
Okay.
We've got Mania, Mystic Witch, and Fern Mayans.
Oh, phew. There we go. It's updated itself. It's working. Hi, everybody. Oh,
now we can introduce.
Yes. So hi, guys. We're here for a live witchy chat today. I'm here with Alex from Wonder, Weirdness, Witchcraft, which I was convinced I was going to say wrong because tongue twister of a name, and House of Tarot. So hello to Alex.
Hi, guys. Hello, everyone in the chat. I'm super duper excited to be here with you all tonight. Yeah. Or this morning.
It's this morning in the UK, or it's right in the middle of the night for the Americans. So all the Americans are going to tell me off later and be like, why are you broadcasting at 4 in the morning? Hi, guys. Hi, Mystic. We're good. We're good. I'm coming at you from a place of tweeting. So hopefully you can hear all the bird song at some point during this live stream because it's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be full of birds tweeting and everything this morning. It should be fun. So we thought we'd get together today and chat just on a kind of like a witchy chat rather than doing a views with Earth. So we thought we'd talk about witchcraft and fox energy, which is why there's like a fox in the introductory picture, because yeah. Alex has this amazing setup with fox energy that I was like, oh my God, I love it. And I work with fox energy as well. So we'll get onto that in a bit. But I thought first, if you want to introduce yourself, Alex, if you want to talk about House H-A-U-S of Tarot, which you've just launched, I thought that's where we'd start.
Sure. So for anyone who's watching who isn't aware, my name's Alex, and I'm a Wonder Witchcraft, and launched a new business venture called House of Tarot. House of Tarot, let's say it.
It's German house.
House of Tarot. Yeah. So it's basically, it was a combination of my two worlds, which has been something that I've wanted to do for a while now. I was operating a local area as a tarot reader under Tarot by Alex for a couple of years, and that was something that I did keep quite separate to Wonder Witch. So now I've just kind of, and then so I had Tarot by Alex over here, and then I had Wonder Weirdness Witchcraft over here, and under Wonder Weirdness I had my Etsy store, which was Wonder Witchcraft, which were where I sold readings and little, crafts and things that I, pick up or make. So it was just it just made sense to me in my mind to merge the two, and not have as many loose ends, if you like, as many pies, different pies with all my different fingers stuck in too many different pies when I could just have the one.
Mm-hmm.
So very exciting for me. So that's been up and running for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And, in celebration, I had, everyone on my channel. Unfortunately, you couldn't make it because of the time zones.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fabulous. It was really good. Chatted to some fabulous witches: Arwen Lynch, Ravenflower, Crimson Fire, Elder Crow. Lots of people who, and the Random Witch, who was so incredibly gifted and have their own witchy businesses. And it was fantastic. We did live readings and so much like fun stuff. So that was really, really great. That was like my big celebratory launch party, if you like.
That's fabulous. Alex has had a launch party, everybody in chat. That's awesome.
A launch party with some of my, favorite witchy businesses and, my friends. So it was great. It was really good. Really, really good. So if you're interested, there's links, floating around. Definitely go and check out the Etsy store. I offer, lots of different readings, lots of different reading styles, via email, live, like one-on-one like this, through Google Hangout or through Skype. And you get to customize your reading, which is really, really cool. So you get to choose your own tarot deck that you want to work with, and which kind of reading you want. I've got 30-minute, 60-minute email. So lots of that oracle, lots of that in there. But Ben, go check it out. I've got 15% off my readings at the minute as a celebratory promotion. So go check that out, guys.
There are 2 links below in this chat. I've got your Facebook link for the House of Tarot and your YouTube channel. Can people find you through both of those to the stores and things if they follow one of those?
Okay. Absolutely. Like I said, there are links everywhere.
Okay. That's the way. Links everywhere.
Message me on Facebook, send me an email, wonderwitnesswitchcraft@gmail.com if you do get stuck. But there are links everywhere, on my Instagram, on my Facebook, on my YouTube, everywhere. Tumblr, even, like, just everywhere.
So Mystic wants to know if we can say White Witchy Wiccan Witchcraft Crafts 3 times fast.
That's almost as bad as Wonder Witness Witchcraft, isn't it?
Not at this time in the morning, Mystic. No, I'm on like my 2nd coffee, and I've got my fox mug in honor of everything today. So I can't say pretty much my own name fast at this time in the morning. So probably not. No. So thank you guys for joining us. I know we're at a strange o'clock.
A strange o'clock. That's a very good way of putting it.
For a lot of the world, for the American audience, we're in a weird space. For me and the Southern witches, we're fine. We're like, no, we're all right.
Yeah, like, you're starting your day, we're finishing our day.
Like, we're good. We're good.
Like, you're like, where's my coffee? I'm like, where's my wine? Like, let's get it happen.
We're in the space between coffee and wine. I think that's how we're going to describe it.
Absolutely. That tween time, that in between, I love it.
So hi to Alvine and Crimson Fire, who have just joined us.
Hello, lovely.
So we've got all the Australians basically. Welcome, Southern Witches.
Yay!
So we've plugged Alex a bit to begin with. So
we've plugged,
we've done that part.
We've done that part.
Hi, Liz. So we're just going to talk generally about witchcraft, I think, and energies and things. And I thought we'd start off with fox energy because this is something that Alex and I have in common. And Alex shared this beautiful picture, and I think you shared it on Instagram first, and then it went to Facebook. Is that right? And it was the fox, and you kind of done like a crystal bone grid with.
Oh yes, my bone grid.
and you'd done it with like fox bones, and it had crystals in it, and I think you had candles around it, if I'm remembering correctly. It's a couple of weeks ago now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it around Samhain your time? Is that what it was for?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it was. That was a fantastic time. Fox was just like everywhere for me around that time. So I was like, you know what? Let's bring you out. Let's bring you out to play.
And it was gorgeous, because I don't think I'd ever seen somebody using like crossing over between bonework and crystal grids before, because a lot of people are like, oh well, you're either like bones and death and blah blah blah, or crystals. And I thought it was just awesome that you like combine the two, and it was like, no, we're going to have it all in one space. We're going to combine, we're going to have balance. I loved that about it. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that I've found, and I mean, I'm guilty of it myself, you know, where you say, oh yeah, you know, I work with bones, and that's where it's left, you know. So I kind of wanted to show how I work with bones. I mean, everybody works with bones differently. Like some people will have a bone sitting on their altar and that's enough. Some people will meditate with their bone, you know, that's enough. For me, I wanted to say, well, actually, this is another way, you know, this is something that I do. And I've always loved the idea and the concept of gridding and creating those energy fields, if you like. And that's very much what gridding does for me. It creates that energetic field. So, you know, by incorporating the bones and the way that I set them out, you know, using the vertebrae down the middle and then the ribs on the outer and the skull, you know, setting it out like that it was just a really profound kind of thing. I did it all really intuitively, and it was just really great. And it was quite a really powerful way to connect with Fox. Like, it was just incredible.
It was absolutely beautiful. If you haven't checked out his Instagram pictures, I'm assuming they're still there, or possibly on the Facebook pictures, they're beautiful. And it was really unusual, and I love people pulling things out and being like, showing these things, and I'm like, oh I hadn't thought of that. Oh I like it. That gets me excited about other people's witchcraft, when people do things and I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, because I work with Fox energy as well, and I love crystal grids, but I'd never thought to combine them. So yes, well, I know there is a lot of bird song in the background. I am fucking Snow White. That's what we've just decided. I am the Snow White of the witch world. Welcome to my space. Basically, no, don't do it. Oh, and the dogs are barking now because I made that noise. Oh dear, it's all gone downhill. The woods are right outside, guys. So yeah, at this time in the morning, the blackbirds are going. The blackbirds are hilarious. I wish I could show you, but the camera's like on the computer. But the blackbirds are all like sitting on the washing lines, and they like hop along the washing lines at this time in the morning. It's hilarious.
I love that.
I love the blackbirds. They're so cheeky.
Yeah.
So the woods are right outside. So that's what you can hear, guys, in chat. So just to go back to Fox energy, because I really want to talk about this, because nobody talks about Fox energy, and I freaking love Fox energy. So how did you find Fox energy? What were your like feelings and energies that you're happy to share with people about Fox energy?
So the whole basically how I started, you know, in my area, you know, in my location, my environment, there are foxes. And they are actually considered vermin in my area. There are too many foxes. I live on a farm, so, you know, in my area, there's lots of different farms. There's lots of farms around me, farmland. So for farmers, you know, foxes aren't the best animals to be having around. So there was a time there where they were baiting foxes to reduce the numbers, which is terrible, I think, anyway. But how I came across working with foxes was because I was gifted one by universe. I was gifted a deceased fox, which I believe was poisoned.
Okay.
That is the only thing that I could see physically on the fox, and that's the only other reason that I can think of as to why it would have died in the way it was and the way I found it. And that in itself was a completely incredibly profound experience. I mean, I was walking through my fields one day and almost stood on it. Like it was literally like it had been picked up and dropped at my feet. And even the way that it was lying in the grass, the grass wasn't growing up around it. It was like the fox was placed on the grass and the grass was like flattened around it. It was just an absolutely beautiful experience, and that sounds kind of morbid in a way.
Oh, no, we're all about the morbid on this channel. You're fine.
I know. I'm in good company. But it was just a beautiful, and it was a beautiful fox as well. Like its fur, everything about it was just a beautiful, beautiful animal, which is why, it didn't look sick, it didn't look unhealthy, which is why I think that it was possibly poisoned. So, I immediately thought, I immediately said thank you to, just everything that was around me. I said, well, thank you so much for this. And I picked it up and I brought it to one of my circles, which I have outside, one of my sacred spaces, which I have out in one of the fields, some trees. It's gorgeous. But I thought that's where I needed to place this animal to give that respect to it and that reverence. And that's what I did, and I left it there to, a lot of people when they come across a deceased animal, they'll, to do the decomposition process, they'll either do it themselves or they'll bury it or whatever. But I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna be patient and let it just do its thing. So I brought it to the circle. I left it in the circle. I did a nice ceremony for it, lit a candle, lit incense, and I was like, do your thing. So, months and months and months went by, and I, went to visit it and see how it was going. And, it got a little bit gross there for a little while, but,
Yeah, decomposition. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's something people don't talk about. We should touch on that probably, yeah. Sorry.
And I mean, this whole thing, the whole experience, just from finding it to now working with the bones has just been incredible. So once it had gotten to a point of decomposition that I, was happy with, getting in there, I was able to, take some of the bones, and that's when I started my relationship with actually working with the bones. So I took some of the bones and I cleaned them. Not with any chemicals or anything, but I just cleaned them because obviously they'd been out, so there was dirt and there was, bits and pieces still. So I cleaned them, let them soak in some salt water, and then I left them out in the sun to, naturally dry and naturally bleach, by the sun. So I left them out on my roof.
Oh, wow.
I put them in little containers, they were like planter containers, and they were nicely lined up, and every couple of weeks I would go up onto my roof and turn them. So they'd get
the Sunday turning of the bones.
right. That in itself was a whole ritual,
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
Once they were all nice and clean and nicely, sun bleached and everything, I'm like, well, fantastic. I can now bring them into sacred space, and I brought them in, and I took up my whole altar and laid them all out. I have got the skull, I have got teeth, I have got vertebrae, I have got ribs, I've got the little bones in the paw. So I've got this animal, all of it, pretty much all of this animal. And then, you know, I brought them into space, and I did a Joey Morris, and I made a smudge. I intuitively made a fox smudge and included, you know, plants and plant matter that you know, that was surrounding the fox when I found him. You know, things of his natural environment. We've got tea trees down here in our
lovely.
area. That's something that the fox will often, you know, hide away in, or its den will be amongst the tea trees. They're very dense, gnarly looking trees, so that I, you know, brought some tea tree in, some blackberry as well.
Ooh.
So, you know, things like that, bringing in and creating its own kind of smudge. And I smudged every one of those bones and, you know, laid them out. And now the skull has its own little, it's in like a little glass pyramid prism thing.
Oh, nice, yeah.
That's like its own little temple when it's not on my altar. I'll put him in his little prism, and then the rest of the bones are in a nice big beautiful jar with some fabric and things. And so that's, you know, when I started. That's my whole story. You know,
beginning to end, we have the whole story
of starting. That's how I started working with fox. But I mean, I just love, you know, that it's, and I reckon he is an underappreciated animal spirit to work with. You know, there's so many different ways that you can work with fox. You know, you can work with his trickster energy or his cunning energy, but then you can work with his intelligence and his ability to traverse and get from point A to point B. You know, and getting in amongst the you know, the way that I always put it is, you know, the fox will always he's always calculating. You know, he's gonna hang back in, you know, in the shadows, in the bushes. He's gonna hang back and say, I'm gonna walk exactly there, and then there, and then there, and then there, and that's how I'm gonna get there.
So I absolutely love that about foxes. I'm just going to jump on that point.
Absolutely.
Because foxes are said to know their way through the woods better than any creature alive, possibly. Is like, people who love foxes will say yes, better than any creature alive. And they know all the old paths. They know how to tread the old paths. We have a helicopter going over the top, which I have never seen before. So you can now hear a helicopter outside. Wow. And they, to me, they're the magician of the hedgerow. That's how I think of fox energy. They walk between spaces, and it's not just how fox physically traverses, but for me, they step between the other world and the hedge, and they can easily like guide people back and forth in that other world space. I actually work with Morrigan and foxes, and I'm going to bring this into this live chat because initially I became like ridiculed for saying Morrigan would have fox energy, and people were like, no, like in Stephanie Wood's field book they talk about the howlers and the foxes are mentioned, and I was like, no, we can go one better, because I found it. I found the original blooming like text. I've got it here. I could read the Irish, but we're not going to. But basically, they double the cries of foxes. They double the voices of the hooded crows. So foxes and Morrigan energy, particularly with regards to Babe, which is crone energy, rebirth energy, are mentioned in one of the oldest living texts surviving about the goddess Morrigan. So I'm just gonna pop it out there that I found it. We're going to read some comments, and then I'll talk about how I came to fox energy.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to say bye to Mystic. Mystic went a little while ago, but if he comes back and watches this later, thank you for joining us. Sorry about your battery life. And hi to traditional trad witch Morgana. I haven't seen a fox since coming back to Australia, says Marla Lee. I get the bats every night close to my balcony. Huge. Wow. I haven't seen bats for a while. I bet they were much bigger in Australia, because this is what I love about like southern witchy, northern witchy, because like you have a completely different environment to us. So I'm like, tell me more about tea trees, because I've never seen one in like England. So I love that. That's cool. Have you
The
seen
bats in the north.
Mm.
The bats in the north are huge. Like they are the size of a small person. Like they're fucking huge. I'm sorry, I swore.
That's all right. We can do that.
But we do have little bats. Like my cat did once bring me a little bat, which was still alive, and I was like, oh my god, I want to keep you as a pet, but I also want to get. So
I can see that. I can see you with just like a bat perched on your shoulder. Hi.
Right? Hanging from something, and I'm like, great. But then I'm like, no, this needs to. No, you can't have this. If I can't have it, you can't have it. I said to my cat, pretty much. So I let it go. But so we do have the little bats, particularly where I am, and we don't have the big bats where I am down in the south of Australia. But definitely in the north, the bats are huge. Go talk to Avalon Cameron about big bats, because they are all up where she is.
Tradwitch Morgana says she's being stalked by foxes for the last 3 weeks. 2 outside the office yesterday. 1 outside my living room this morning, all at weird times of day for foxes. I love them. I love fox energy. I love fox energy. I've got some funny stories about foxes throughout my life. So at one point I lived in a city, because I was at that point I was at university. So I was in university digs in a city. And one night I heard what I thought was a woman being attacked, because it sounded like screaming. So I grabbed the bat that we had in our house and like ran downstairs and slammed the door open, thinking there was some poor woman being attacked. It was a fox. It was a fox, and the fox looked at me like, what? And this is me like, oh my god, I've got to save this person who's screaming, like terrified in the middle of the night. And then there's a fox like, what?
What do you want?
What? And I'm like, it was you screaming, and it just looked at me, and it was just like, yeah, and wandered off. And I'm like, right, fine. Thanks for that. I love foxes though. They're so funny and so naughty. And one of my earliest memories is of a fox. I think I was about 2 or 3, and my mother was like, come here, and look in the garden. And there was a couple of baby foxes in the garden. And I remember that. It's like one of my first memories. So
yeah. Wow.
Ferminays, am I saying that right? Ferminays. I can never pronounce anything. I have magpies. Yeah, I have magpies around me all the time though. I do. I have magpies, crows, and blackbirds around at all times. They're different. They're different in Australia though, aren't they? They're more aggressive.
Yeah, the magpies are known to attack.
That doesn't happen
in Australia. I haven't, knock on wood, been attacked by a magpie, but my sister definitely has, and it just tore her ear apart, basically.
Ooh.
She had scratches all over her face, all over her ear, her neck. It was horrible. Extremely traumatizing, but, funnily enough, she doesn't have a fear of birds.
I thought you'd gone mystic. How many times we will say fox? You can play a drinking game if you like. You can drink every time we say fox. Fox mystic, drink, fox. Fox mystic, drink. Fox mystic. But that excites me, because I don't get to talk about fox. Fox mystic, drink.
I know. And I did send Alvine some of my bones, because when she mentioned in one of her videos that Fox had shown up to her, and I'm like, "Ooh, can I share some of my bones with you, please?" It wasn't really an asking. It was more like,
that's such a witch thing to do. So I heard you were into foxes. Have some bones.
Literally, I don't want to force anything upon anyone, but have these.
But I've sent you some bones in the mail.
Yeah, you'll be expecting them on your doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, but I literally said, I'm like, can I please send you bones? And she was like, absolutely. I'm like, great. Good, because they're already in the mail.
Good, because it's too late to say no. So yeah, tequila, Mystic. I expect you to be drunk at the end of this live chat. Okay, it's pronounced Fern May Aya. New Zealand is where I was originally from. Okay. How large is an Australian raven, Alvine? Or indeed, Alex, how large are the Australian ravens?
They are quite big birds.
Mm.
They are. Oh, look. See, the question said raven. I can't tell the difference between a raven and a crow. I honestly don't, because I've heard this rumor that in Australia we don't have crows, we only have ravens, but I've also heard the other way around, so I don't know.
Mm.
But this, the black bird that is either a crow or a raven.
One or the other.
One or the other. They're quite big. They are quite big birds.
Well, the crows in England are quite a bit smaller than the ravens, because the ravens are big compared to the crows. Like there's a discernible difference in Europe between the size of crows and ravens. The beaks are different as well, aren't they? Is it ravens that have a hooked beak, and then the crow is the straight beak? Is that the right way around? Scarlet Rose says, I met a fox the other day on my walk home from work. It ran past me, stopped and looked at me for the longest time. It felt like it was staring not at me but into me. It was so surreal. It probably was. I've had that too. So when I was in Canterbury, which is in the south of England, which is where I was at university, there was a lot of woodland around there. And I went into the woods one day, and it was quite in the sort of early blossomings of my pagan, like my fully embracing pagan path. Like I'd always had pagan tendencies, but Canterbury really helped open me up to a lot of the books and the reading and the knowledge and the practice that other people were doing. And one day we went into the woods to look for a pagan spot that we'd been told about by the local pagan shop before a ritual that we were going to go join, which was the first group ritual I ever went to. And my friend and I went into the woods, and a fox came out of the woods and stood in the middle of this, because it was like this long winding path through the woods, and it was very much hedgerows and wilderness on all sides. And this fox came out of the hedgerow and stood in front of us and just stared at us, and then just walked back into the other side and carried on. And they do that, absolutely do that. Like in physical, they do that. And there is like that spiritual, they do see through. They are very much hedge animals, like to my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that always has resonated with me, when you hunt a fox under light, you'll see its eyes. Their eyes are very reflective and they're blue. But what the fox will do almost every time is you'll see it, they'll disappear, but they'll always turn around a second time. Always. And that's that whole calculating thing, and having tabs. The other way I like to talk about foxes, they've always got tabs on what's happening. They can see you, but you can't necessarily see them, which is what I like about fox as well. It's that cunning, it's that cunning energy.
Hey, Narasine. Narasine, we have city foxes, and I've woken up to one standing on my shed. They'll do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard they are quite good climbers.
Mystic Raven says, Mystic Witch says ravens have the hooked beaks. So there you go. It is the hooked beaks with ravens. I thought so. I always worry that my brain's gone cross-eyed and I've got them mixed up, but there we go. And Mystic's on the tequila now. We've started something with Mystic.
We've started a drinking problem. I'm so sorry, Mystic.
I think foxes are quite common in the UK. because I'm pretty sure Narasimha's in the UK. If it's the right name of the woman that I think it is, I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to say your actual name out loud in case you don't want me to, but I'm pretty sure. Is a UK based lady. So they're pretty common in the UK. Like I've seen a lot of foxes over the years in the UK. And of course, they're at the fore of a lot of the politics as well, because we've got to fight back again against fox hunting right now in the UK.
I did see that. I think I might have shared that actually.
Yeah, I shared the petition, which is like, no, because the people of England have spoken against this already, and people are very against it. Yeah, I thought, okay, good. I know who Narasimha is. And the people have spoken against this. The people are really against this. Fox hunting is still being carried out illegally, because I know people who go to the sabotage stuff. Like I sort of know who they are, and they go and sabotage the rich people hunting foxes and things. Yes, exactly. So Trad Witch Morgana says, I love how foxes take advantage of us. We've taken over their territory, so they invade back, and they know how human areas are good for food. They're vilified but survive as such a morganic animal. Yes. All the yes to that comment. That comment is yes. Oh.
I completely agree, because, you know, in Melbourne a couple of years ago, there was a big thing of foxes in the city, like literally, like in the suburbs, which is, you know, generally unheard of for any wild animal. So that was a big thing, you know, especially in the suburbs of Melbourne, is foxes, you know, creeping in and getting into bins and getting into food and things like that. And it's like, well, you know what?
Nature pushing back. So Alvine says, I have seen maybe 4 or 5 foxes in my lifetime, but since working with them, I've seen about 9 in the last few months. Do you find that? Do you find that you see more of them when you're working with them?
Yeah, they definitely do make themselves known when you are working with energies, or if you need to, like.
Oh, a little bit garbled. Oh, we may have lost you. Still there, Alex?
Am I here?
Oh, it's sorted itself out again. Okay, you garbled up a bit. I don't know if people got what you said or not.
Okay.
We're still broadcasting, yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to say about that is I think there's a difference there, because I think it depends if you're working with the animal energy, working with the animal spirit for a period of time, or if that is kind of like your totem animal, kind of like your energy animal, because sometimes when it's your energy animal, you don't necessarily see it all the time, but you know it's always within you, sort of thing. And then you might be seeing other animals that you need to work with at that point, for example. So kind of like when they're in your periphery, it's like when you need to work with them, even if your inner animal is one particular. How do you feel about when you see like dead animals? Like, I mean, you talked about how you found the fox, and there was a big ritualistic, magical witch moment with it. But if you were, say, working with them and you were seeing a couple of dead ones and things, this is always something that people get quite worried about. They're like, oh, I'm seeing my spirit animal dead and I'm freaking out. So what would you say for that kind of perspective?
That's a really interesting thing, and I've never actually thought about it, because I've never noticed something like that happen. But I don't know whether it would be. I think you would probably have to. You would have to go into some form of meditation or ask for some sort of answers, because I feel like, I mean, with anything, whether the animal's showing up alive or dead, it's showing up for a reason. You know, so if it was, you know, if it's something that you know work with a lot, if it's an animal that you work with a lot, and maybe if they're showing up dead, maybe that's like a thing saying, you know, there's a disconnect happening. Maybe you need to reconnect. But then that could be also the other way around if you see them alive. So yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Shush.
Yeah.
Stop asking me questions.
Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah, because I haven't had an experience like that. I don't know how I would take it, and I don't know what it would trigger.
For me, I think seeing like the dead animal is one of two things. Like there might be a shadow element to, like you kind of mentioned this, there might be a shadow element. Hi, Feathered Theron. So you're seeing like the death side, like the spirit side of your animal. So there may be like a shadow that you need to work with that particular animal. Or it might just be like a reminder of like the great cycles of life. Like even within nature, the death is present, death is prevalent, and it happens, like especially with roads and things, you know, it's just human incursion into nature, and unfortunately it's just when the two worlds clash. So there is an element of that, I think. Trad Witch Morgana, Alex, do you use the bones to call up the spirit of that fox? Yes, we're talking about foxes today because I can, because Alex works with them and so do I.
So with these bones, I do work with them in two ways. One way is working with Fox, capital F, the collective energy of Fox. But I do also work with the particular spirit of that particular animal. In a similar way as someone would work with perhaps a familiar, familiar spirit. So that's, yes, I do. To answer that question, I do. And usually when I'm doing those sorts of workings, I'll work with the skull that I have of the animal. Because you know that the skull is always that symbol of, you know, the seat of the soul and things like that. So that's when I'll use the skull solely. But when I'm using other bones or the skull and the other bones, you know, combined, that's generally for Fox, capital F.
So Feathered Theron said, I have a dead fox pelt. I call her Wren and work with her a lot. That is gorgeous. You have to be careful with things like pelts and bones and things, because depending on where it's come from, because you don't want to sort of feed into people killing animals to sell the bones or sell the furs and things like that. We have to be careful with that. But like if I naturally came across a fox pelt, I would be happy forever, I think. So I too work with a fox in a fetish form, like a specific fox spirit. I have shared bits and pieces. I don't share too much about the specific fox energy because a lot of it is a private thing. But I will say that he is a young male fox spirit. He's got more energy than I know what to do with. And he's crazy energetic, and I'm like, you're making me feel old, and I'm not that old. And he wanted his bones decorated. He wanted Celtic wall markings.
Oh.
And so that was something that I did for him as part of a ritual, and basically they kind of mirror my Celtic wall markings, the ones that I see myself with in meditation. So yeah, so I work with fox in that capacity too.
That's incredible.
Drow asks if you ever make a wind chime with bones.
I haven't, but that's a good idea.
I would probably be more interested in a witch's ladder with bones and feathers rather than a wind chime. And a witch's ladder would look kind of similar visually, kind of. To a wind chime, and that's when you have like a long ladder effectively, and it's material and ribbons and feathers and bones, and it's very much like I don't know how, it's somewhere between like an amulet and a charm, and
yeah, I would agree.
I think bones would work really well with that, and it taps into something primal with that, because bones have been used that way for a long time.
Yeah, and that's what I was really finding as well. You know, the whole process of it you know, it really opened up another aspect of my path and a yearning for that real primal energy, which I think was just fantastic and raw and juicy and delicious and just incredible.
I'm sure you have been ethically perfect, Feathered Theron. I didn't want to suggest to you that you didn't know where your fox pelt came from. What I wanted to say was that's an issue within like the pagan community, of knowing where your bones come from, knowing where your pelts come from, and ethically sourcing. I'm not saying that, you know, you don't know where your pelt comes from or anything like that. It's just that she was shot for overpopulation. They sold her pelt, just like everything. She didn't die for nothing, but getting the population down. I feel like I've upset you now, and I didn't mean to. It's just that there is unfortunately a trade that does arise because people want pelts and things, and that's just what I wanted to touch on. Just, you know, ethical sourcing, exactly the same with crystals, exactly the same with plants, exactly the same with all natural wonders of the world. It's just being aware, basically, and because we platform out into the YouTube world and other people come and watch this and they may not know. I think it's kind of necessary to say that. Cool. Okay, so Crimson Fire has missed heaps because of technology. No, it's okay. This will be on. It'll be up on YouTube after. So the name that she told me to pronounce and I already can't remember. I'm going to call you Fernie. You okay? You okay with calling me you Fernie? If you didn't have bones of your spirit animal to connect with, what other ways would you connect with them in a similar fashion, in a similar way? I'll pass that to Alex and see what he thinks.
For me, I'm a very visual person, so having some form of visual anything would be a really good way for me if I didn't have my bones. So having pictures, having drawings, and things like that, I would be all about if I didn't have my bones, or even like a little statue, little teddy bear, like a plush, something, you know.
Hang on. Seeing as Crimson Fire said Kitsune, I've got a Vulpix. Vulpix is a Pokemon based on Kitsune energy, so I just thought we'd just, you know, we'd just do that. Sorry, just she said Kitsune, I was like, kids. I love Japanese everything, and I've worked with Kitsune energy before, so I'll talk about that in a little bit if you guys are interested. But to feedback with Alex's comment, I'm a very visual person too, so artwork, any artwork that really speaks to you is a good start anyway, because it's kind of opening your senses up and it kind of gets you thinking and feeling anyway. So if you can find some artwork you really like with fox energy, that's really good. I've got loads of foxes with silver birch, which is a thing for me, like the interplay between the two. Everybody likes Vulpix. Everybody likes Vulpix. This is the ice Vulpix. This is new to the new Pokemon. So there you go. Anyway, but another good thing you can do is like look for like sound effects, like look for like fox calls, fox noises. I'm sure you can find them on YouTube. I bet you can. And they make some unholy noises, foxes, but if you wanted to get into like a death space with foxes, if you wanted to sort of be like underworld traveling with foxes, that's definitely something you can do. So a Kitsune, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong because I'm usually is a Japanese fox spirit from the Japanese mythology. They quite often showed up as women, but not always. And there is many stories in the Japanese mythology of Kitsune possessing people. And so I've
done a little research into that.
The surviving mythology of Kitsune is often considered to be negative, but I have never had a negative experience with regards to Kitsune. I think, like a lot of creatures, it's about respect and approaching them with the proper mentality. It's not like, oh, you're a cute little fox spirit, you can help me out, right? Like, no, don't do that. So is that a GG from Kiki's delivery service? Yes, it is. Back, yeah, here. Yes, it is. And we have my neighbor Totoro critters here, and cat buses there, and Pokemon everywhere. Yes, nice and witchy in my background. Pokemon, fun things. Anyway, sorry, I completely sidetracked. And so they have this kind of otherworld guardian. They do have that kind of trickster energy that so frequently gets brought up in relation to fox energy. And I kind of love the trickster energy because it gets portrayed as like the negative, like the mischief in now. And I'm like, that's not what the trickster's about. For me, trickster is about perspective and like shifting perspective and shifting what you believe and shifting and making you question stuff. So and anyway, the Kitsune is a big deal in Japan. There are still like shrines to them that have survived. There are still statues, and I find their energy fascinating. And they have tails, like many tails, and depending on how many tails they are depends on how old they are, which is where 9 tails comes from in the Pokemon, because 9 is at the height of the power, because power 9.
Okay.
Crimson says her red Kitsune appeared to me adorning a white pelt, and it has been an intense few months. I bet. Have you ever worked with Kitsune energy in your research or in your travels, Alex?
No, I haven't. When Fox first showed up, I was like, I just need to know everything about Fox, and that's usually what will happen if something does show up. I'm like, okay, let's hit the books, let's hit the articles, like let's go for it. So I did a lot of different research on different ways that different cultures would work with Fox and work with, Fox spirits and things like that. And yeah, when I was reading about, the traditions in Japan and especially the whole possession side of it, and there was one story that I read one article that I read that was talking about specific families having like a fox spirit attached to them. It would almost be like a curse, and people would shun those families and fear them because they had this fox spirit attached to them. I'm like, well, I hope that's not what my fox ends up doing to me.
I think with the advent of Christianity, foxes have suffered, and I honestly feel like it's one of the creatures, one of the mystical beings that has suffered a lot from like the advent of these things are evil, so we're going to shun them mentality that comes through with. It's not just Christianity, but it's the more dogmatic religions come forward, and then things that once were not necessarily evil become evil, and that's like the trickster energy again. That's like your Loki energies again. The way that we perceive things, and kitsunes especially, something you'll come across a lot is the masks of the kitsune. And you'll come across the images. Now, for me, foxes and masks has been a big spiritual experience, and it still is. And it's something that I'm talking about. It's something I'm writing about on the blog, and I am still writing about it. And it's literally about putting on different masks to better understand different elements of yourself and other people and witchcraft or spirituality, however you see it. So for me, that's what happened. And I've had a kitsune appear in the past. She was a younger kitsune, and she was around at a time when I was looking at healing with a different energy completely, and she just showed up on the wall, and she was lying down on the wall like, what are you doing? What is this? Why are you doing it this way? This seems long-winded to me. Do it like this. And then like quick. And she had like needles and things as well, and she was talking about like sort of acupuncture, and I was like, have you been like studying Chinese medicine? You're supposed to be a Japanese spirit. And she was like crossbreeding bitches, like that we take from them, they take from us, you know. So that she was like that. But that was a while ago. So Tradwitch wants to ask, when you work with Fox, are you seeing Fox with your physical senses, in meditation, empathetic connection, or something else? Spirit work is fascinating. Hey, Bursley.
You know, if I had to put a label on it, I would say that I am clairsentient. So I work with spirit clairsentiently, so through feelings. So I don't see, I don't hear, I don't smell, I don't feel. I feel. You know.
He doesn't feel. He feels.
I don't feel. I feel. Yeah, that's, you know. So that's how I, you know that the energy's around. That's how I pick up on the energy of not only Fox but any other kind of spirit that I'm working with, or not in some cases. But yeah, so I feel the energy.
So I'm initially I was clairvoyant, like my other senses have kind of developed over time. But I do feel, and with the Fox that I work with in terms of the little Fox energy that I talked about, like the physical spirit, I can feel him. He will come and lean up against my leg and like stare up like that. And I can feel him doing that. I can feel him doing it right now because I've mentioned him. So he's like, hi. Hi, you talked about me. Hi. Like,
Hi.
And I can physically feel him against my leg. It's a very surreal experience. And it's perhaps the only time outside of when cats have passed away that I've sometimes felt them brush up against my legs, that I've had that very physical sensation. But I see them but it's a clairvoyant seeing. So it's kind of like how I describe clairvoyant seeing is it's kind of like waking meditation or waking dreaming. So it's kind of like you're seeing, but you're not seeing. So it's kind of like you're seeing through the veil and seeing something other. It's a very difficult, because you sound nuts to the layperson. You're like, so you're seeing, but you're not seeing.
Yeah, it's like I'm not feeling, I'm feeling.
Yeah. So Melinda said she had no idea this was happening. I tried advertising, and Alex did too. So Crimson says the primal rawness married with a refined wisdom keeps me working with Fox and Kitsune energy. Absolutely. Oh, I love Fox energy so much. That's why we're talking about it, because I was like, ah. And Feather Theron, I like how everyone is always foxes are tricksters, rabbits are fluffy. I feel like, no, if anything, rabbits are worse. I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I feel that rabbits are way worse tricksters.
See, I also work with rabbit a lot, and the way that it's I was working with rabbit before I was working with fox, and the way that it's kind of happened, I feel like for me in my practice, the rabbit and the fox are like the yin and yang.
I can see that. Yeah.
The predator and the prey. That. So even though they are quite petite creatures physically, and especially in my local environment as well, that's something that we have. We've got a lot of rabbits and we've got a lot of foxes in vermin numbers for both, and they, it's a cycle with the foxes and the rabbits. You're either hearing about the rabbits or you're either hearing about the foxes.
Monty Python, honestly, have you seen that rabbit?
Right. So for me, the rabbit is very, while they're quite different, they are quite similar. The rabbit also has that ability to cross over and aid in the crossing over. But for me, the rabbit is more so about creativity and more so about moving quickly. Moving quickly without necessarily, like with the fox is more calculating. The rabbit doesn't really have time to think. It'll just fucking get out of there whichever way that it can, pretty much, So there's a it's less intelligent than what the fox is, but
Oh.
still, right? But still, like, it's got its own unique kind of way of doing things that are similar but very different.
So I have a blog post all about this, because when the fox arrived, this fox spirit that arrived recently, it came with a fox rabbit mask spiritual journey, and it's on my blog, and I talk about it a little bit more succinctly than that. But it came to be that rabbit was about the fear. Rabbit was the fear caller, and there's this beautiful story that Chris shared with me, and it was basically that the rabbit would call his fears to him and manifest them. So the rabbit was the fear caller, and that was very much a lesson in being hunter and prey in terms of your own spiritual path. You can be both hunter and prey, and you need to embody both in this cycle to better understand yourself. And it's for me, it was very much about journeying, spiritual journeying with a sense of fear and the things that we are afraid of, and how we react to fear, and how we plan out for things that we're afraid of, and how we interact with that emotion.
Yeah.
Good morning, Sue King. Melinda says that rabbits have a vicious streak. I think they do. We had a pet rabbit when we were kids, and it didn't like men. And if men went anywhere near it, it was vicious. The girls could hold it fine, but if men went near it, it was vicious as anything. It was a really bizarre pet.
See, I've had pet rabbits before, and they've all been quite sweet.
They generally can be. I think it depends on the personality you end up. He was a black rabbit. Maybe he was like I am a dark rabbit.
I also wanted a black rabbit, and in saying that, he didn't like to be held a lot.
Oh, maybe it's the kind of rabbit.
He was alright. He patted while he was on the ground, but if you picked him up, he was not about it.
No. My rabbits, like Ren, one of them slept on her pelt a few days ago, and it was adorable. But I was also like, "What are you doing? You're a rabbit." The rabbit was probably mocking that fox, like, "You're comfy now." Bursty Girl says, I keep seeing stoats in the wild. I think it's quite rare to see them, and it's happened 3 times. Thoughts? We'll look into the symbolism. Oh, I don't know about stoat symbolism. I'll have a think. They're survivors and kind of hedge creatures as well. I think they would be quite similar in because they are predators. They're quite similar to foxes in a lot of ways. They're quite predatory, aren't they, stoats? If I'm thinking rightly, they're kind of shapeshiftery creatures as well, like hedge creatures in a similar fashion.
I would imagine so. We don't have them here in Australia, but they kind of remind me, of that, almost like like a mixture between like a fox and like a ferret, like a ferrety energy.
Thinking with your wits is what I'm getting from like a spiritual place. I was like focusing on stoat, and all I was getting was like thinking with your wits. That's what I was picking up energetically from stoat. You called your bunny Loki. Well,
that's just asking for trouble.
That was brave, yeah. Our bunny, Juniper Moon says our bunny Loki is vicious. He doesn't like new people, hates being cuddled. The other bunny, Saffron, is a huge snuggly bunny and will happily snuggle anybody.
Aww.
It's personality, just like anything, I guess. They are very fast, Bursty Girl. Stoats are very, very quick, very they're survivors. There is a survivor energy there. Your daughter called. Are you blaming your daughter for calling your buddy Loki, Juniper? Awesome.
Goodness.
Okay, so we're kind of at time, but I will open up the floor to any questions that anybody has for Alex, or for both Alex and I, about fox energy, about spirit animals in general. I guess that's kind of what we've focused on for the chat. Liz, if you name animals after gods, they take on that persona. I had a kitten named Carly, and that was interesting.
Oh goodness.
I don't think I've ever named a pet after a god, so I can't really tell you. But
No.
I imagine that would be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. Be careful with that.
I've heard other people have named their animals Loki though, and have ended up with completely mischievous animals.
Well, that's what you're doing. Basically, invoking that god into that animal.
You are indeed a survivor, Bursley. You're an inspirational lady. You really are. Feathered Theron, my rabbits have Dutch names. They must sound really weird to you guys. I don't know. Dutch and German names are kind of sexy, but that's kind of weird if you're naming animals. So maybe we won't go there.
I'm part Dutch, so it wouldn't faze me. It wouldn't faze me, and I completely agree. I'm all about Dutch and Germanic names.
Miss Dryer says, I found a crow feather sticking straight up by the rocks by my front door. Who do you think that was from? Well, I don't know you, and I don't know your situation, but it could be a multitude of different energies. I always say be careful with things like feathers, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's a particular goddess necessarily. It can be like a universal message from crow and crow spirit and crow medicine, that sort of thing. So I'm like the minute anyone's like, is it the Morrigan because it's crow feathers? You kind of need a bigger picture than that to
take your blinkers off.
Yeah.
Sticking
straight up is interesting though. That would be like a marker, like a pay attention to me.
Yeah, it would be like, hey, I'm definitely here. You need to be looking into what I mean. There was a time there for me when I was going about to. It was like a pre-change, and crows were everywhere for me, and they were making themselves known. And I'm like, why am I seeing so many crows? And it wasn't deity. So I looked into crow medicine, and that whole death aspect, and of ending one chapter and starting up another one.
The in between spaces, yeah.
Was a big thing, and as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
So the thing
after what they were, they just stopped.
So the thing that I love about crows is that they are said to see time differently. Crows are supposed to said to be able to see past, present, and future in a way which is very abstract compared to how humans see it. And this is why they're associated with Odin, but that's ravens, but crows and ravens tend to get interchangeably used. That's why they get associated with shapeshifter gods and goddesses and trickster gods and goddesses, because of perception. So it could be a call to keep your eyes open and look at things from a different way. Melinda asks, what are your favorite tarot animal depictions? So animal depictions within tarot. Wild Unknown.
Right.
Wild Unknown is my deck. And I've got the animal spirit deck that they did as well. Any of those. I'm trying to think what my favorite would be out of the.
They are beautiful cards. I don't have my own deck. I have seen other people's firsthand, and they are beautiful, beautiful cards. The Wildwood Tarot has a very strong animalistic vibe to it. A lot of the minor arcana have a lot of animals pop up. Especially like the royalty cards, like your pages, knights, kings, and queens are animals.
The Wild Unknown, the High Priestess card is a white tiger, And it's a gorgeous representation of animal imagery, because white tigers are solitary and they like to swim, which is an unusual thing for tigers and cats in general. But because they like to swim, and it has this water connection there, and it's a beautiful animal in tarot representation. Yeah, is Mystic tipsy yet? That's what we all want to know.
Tipsy, probably passed out on the floor.
We've said Fox about 100 times, expecting you to be drunk by now, Mystic. Master of Perception, look at what you've been doing in the moments before and after the sign, Jerome. I think that's in response to the crow energy. Tradwitch asks, do either of you awesome source witches work with your totem animals in spell work, or is it purely the relationship with that spirit animal you develop? Well, my totem animal is fox, so both.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I will often use, well, that's, you know, one of the reasons when I call on fox is for when I'm working my magic and when I'm working my spells.
So yeah, absolutely both. It's slightly different though, I will say. If you're working with spirits as opposed to like yourself, there is obviously a different focus on what you're doing. You can go internal with spirit work as well, like if you go into yourself in order to reach the ancestors, which is a meditation that you can Chris has. If you want to work with your ancestors, you can go talk to Chris and she can sort you out, and she has a whole course on it. I just plugged Chris again, even though she's not here. Like, I swear she owns half this channel now. Anyway, you can go internally and work with ancestors that way, and the spirits internal that. But for me, when you're working with animal spirits, it's quite different working with totem energy, because that's very much like sitting with yourself as opposed to sitting with a spirit or sitting with an outside energy.
I agree.
Joey, have you worked with the Raven Cards Oracle by Gabby Bucker? I haven't. It's on my list. The thing is, right now, I have just pre-purchased the 3rd Oracle of Oddities deck. So that's the one I'm waiting for right now. And the Oracle of Oddities, if you don't know, is a really beautiful mixture of bones, anatomy, which is in kind of like it's kind of medicine anatomy, and then plant life. And it's the most gorgeous thing in the world right now. So that's the Oracle that I'm working with right now.
I need to get my hands on that by the sounds of it.
Yeah, she's released 1 and 2. 2 is still available. I don't think the first one's available because I've not seen it, but she did say that 2 and 3 are going to be like as if you can work with them together, like they form one massive Oracle deck. So they will be sort of synchronistic.
Complementary.
Yeah. Narasine says she's been stalked by squirrels to the point where he chatters to me to get food. Well, you set up a relationship with this squirrel. You fed him.
That's a really good way to start a relationship with any animal.
Yeah. Mystic is tipsy. Mieve says, is it Mieve or Mieve? I'm guessing Mieve with the A in the middle. Says her totem is the bat. Mystic says his Patronus is a fox. I always get really confused with totem animal because people ask me what's yours. It's like, because I don't know what to think of it. Have you got a hybrid? Is that what you're saying, Feathered Theron? Have you got a hybrid animal? I did a set recently for someone with a hybrid animal. That was interesting.
Wow.
I didn't share it or anything because it's highly personal to them, and I won't give any details, but there are people out there that work with like that kind of thing.
That would be a really interesting experience.
So Birdie's Life of Music and Magic says, sorry I'm so late into this live chat. We're actually over time, so we've actually facilitated you coming in. Says, when learning about animal spirits, do you learn from books, dreams, or watching animal behaviors? What are the best ways to learn about animal spirits? I'll throw that over to Alex. What do you think is the best way to learn about animal spirits?
I think it's a mixture of all of those things that you suggested. It's the reading of the research, it's the actual your personal experience with them, whether it be through meditation or otherwise, and observing, you know, their natural behaviors, because often their natural behaviors can be translated into how you can work with them on a spiritual level. So all three, just immersing yourself in any way you can with that particular animal, I think is just the best way in whatever ways that you can find. Just get in there and just get in there and get your hands all in there and just all deliciousness. Get any juicy in it.
Don't eat the animals.
Don't eat the animal. Well, you know, eat the animal, taste the animal. No,
we've gone down a very dark path all of a sudden. I would say about that, whatever feels right to you, very much like Alex said, like any of it, all of it, it very much about how you feel would work for you, because spirituality, witchcraft, however you want to put it, it's very much about you and how you interact with animal energy. I'm going to kind of address what Feathered Theron said about being confused about animal totem. So animal totem, yeah, thanks for all of this outside, that's great. Dogs barking, because, you know, why not? Animal totem to me is kind of like the animal that is within you. It's kind of the animal that represents you. It is the animal that kind of is you, and there is no separation. And then like spirit animals are kind of like outside of you. So like I've had wolves come to me in spirit animal form, and I now know that that was my ancestors. And because I didn't know what they looked like, they came to me in wolf form and to guide me at points during my path. But the animal that is in my bones, if you like, which is kind of full circle for this chat, is fox. So that's kind of how I see the difference.
I would say that I would agree with that, Joey. I would.
Okay, are there any last questions before we let Alex go and he can have some more wine?
Yeah.
Any last questions? To tie up the chat.
Speak now.
Forever hold your peace, yeah. And the live chat is done. Bum bum bum. Is there any last questions? I think we're good.
I think we're good. We answer a lot of questions.
We've answered quite a lot. The chat is very lively considering what time it is. I'm really impressed with you guys. I'm really thankful for you guys too. I was really worried we'd get no one because all the Americans are asleep. I was like,
anyway, right?
and we've done just as well as if the Americans were awake. So I'm really impressed. Plus, Mystic's here drunk as a skunk. So that's always worth the live chats.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Well, you didn't just happen across us. It's synchronicity. It's the universe. It's like, come talk with us. It's like Alex stumbling over a fox. It was meant to be.
Yep. Meant to be. Meant to be. Oh, well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on and talking about fox energy, which is super exciting to me because I never get to talk about it. So I'm like, yes.
I know, that's why I had an inkling that it was just going to be fox.
Sorry.
I'm completely okay with that.
It's just exciting.
I thought to myself, I'm like, if we just talk about fox, I'm like, that's fantastic because I can literally talk about fox. Like, I was doing a reading, and, you know, I'm probably breaking client confidentiality, but I'm not going to say names or anything, but I was doing a reading for a client with the Wildwood Tarot, and the fox came up. Literally half of the reading was just talking about fox.
I have to be careful with that sort of thing as well, yeah.
Right, so the fox, I'm like, okay, so you've got fox. The fox means this, and he also means this, and 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 also this, and this, and this, and this. And she was like, wow. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. You do have other cards. Like, I will get to the other cards, I promise.
I'm just excited, yeah.
So much. I'm just so excited that you've got a fox. You should be grateful you have a fox.
So yeah, so thank you to Alex for coming on. As I said at the start of the video, and we'll finish up at the tail end, the links down below are for, you can find Alex, and he has the House, Haus of Tarot, and his channel is linked below, which is Wonder Weirdness Witchcraft, I believe. And you can find his store and tarot readings through those two links if you are interested. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I love you too, Narasine.
Yeah, thank you for everyone in the chat. If you notice I'm looking down, it's because my computer's on the floor and I am keeping track of it. But
it's keeping track of you. You're all on the floor. So that's going to be it for today. And thank you so much to Alex for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for the chat. It was amazing. I'm really glad that you all showed up and had a chat with us basically about foxes. That's basically what we were talking about. But bones and animal spirits and all that good stuff. So I love that sort of thing. So I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.